All right, imagine this. You are scrolling through new smartphones in 2026, and suddenly a phone appears from a brand that usually focuses on value devices. But this time it is trying to play in the premium league. A huge battery, a 144Hz AMOLED display, flagship-style cameras, and a design that actually looks seriously premium. This is the Tecno Camon 50 Ultra, and honestly, on paper this thing looks way more interesting than most people expected. So today we're going to take a deep dive into what this phone offers, what feels impressive, what might be questionable, and whether this could actually be one of the most underrated smartphones of the year. And before we jump in, if you enjoy detailed tech reviews like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video because it really helps the channel grow and lets me keep making more content like this. So starting with the design, the first thing that surprised me is how slim this phone actually is considering everything packed inside. The Camon 50 Ultra comes in at just 7.8 millimeters thick and weighs around 178 grams, which means it feels pretty sleek in the hand. The front is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2. The back also uses reinforced glass, and the frame is plastic but still feels solid. What makes this even more interesting is that Tecno added IP68 and IP69K ratings. That means this phone is not only water-resistant, but can also survive high-pressure water jets, which is something we usually see on much more expensive devices. And it even carries MIL STD 810H compliance, which basically means it has been tested for durability in different conditions. Now, it does not mean you should go throwing it off a mountain, but it definitely adds confidence when using it daily. Moving to the display, this is where things start getting really exciting. The phone has a 6.78-inch AMOLED panel with a resolution of 1208 by 2644 pixels. It supports HDR10, and most importantly, it runs at a 144Hz refresh rate. That means everything from scrolling through apps to playing games feels incredibly smooth. And the panel also uses 2160Hz PWM dimming, which helps reduce eye strain when you're using the phone at lower brightness levels. In testing, the display can reach around 1,300 nits of brightness, which is actually pretty solid for outdoor use. Colors look vibrant, contrast is deep like you would expect from AMOLED, and overall it just feels like a flagship-level display experience. Now inside the phone, we have the MediaTek Dimensity 7400 Ultimate processor built on a 4nm architecture. This is paired with either 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM and up to 512 gigabytes of internal storage. In benchmark testing, the phone scores over 800,000 on Antutu version 10 and close to 945,000 on version 11, which puts it comfortably in the upper mid-range performance category. In real-world usage, that means everyday tasks like multitasking, social media, watching videos, and gaming run very smoothly. Games that support high refresh rates also benefit from that 144Hz display, giving a really fluid experience. It is not exactly a flagship gaming chip like the absolute top-tier processors, but for most people, this is more than powerful enough. Now let's talk about cameras, because the Camon series has always been focused heavily on photography. On the back, we get a triple camera setup with a 50-megapixel main sensor that includes optical image stabilization. There's also a 50-megapixel telephoto camera with 3x optical zoom, which is actually pretty rare to see at this level. And finally, there's an 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera with a 112-degree field of view. The main camera captures a lot of detail, and thanks to the large sensor size, it performs well even when lighting conditions are not perfect. The telephoto lens is great for portraits and zoom shots without losing too much quality. And the ultra-wide lets you capture landscapes or group photos with a wider perspective. Video recording goes up to 4K at 30 frames per second, which is good enough for most creators and casual users. And if you're someone who loves taking selfies, Tecno did not hold back here either. The front camera is a massive 50-megapixel sensor that supports autofocus and can shoot 4K video at up to 60 frames per second. That is actually impressive for a selfie camera, and it means vlog-style recording or video calls will look sharper than what you usually get on mid-range phones. If you create content for social media, This could honestly be one of the standout features of this device. Quick pause here. If you're finding this review helpful so far, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel because it helps more people discover the content and it motivates me to keep testing more smartphones like this. Now let's talk about battery life because this is another area where the Camon 50 Ultra looks extremely promising. The phone packs a huge battery that ranges around 6160 to 6500 milliamp hours, depending on the variant. That is significantly larger than what most smartphones offer right now. In active usage tests, it can reach around 16 hours of usage, which means for many people this will easily last a full day or even 2 days, depending on how you use it. Charging is handled by 45-watt wired charging, which is not the fastest in the industry, but still fast enough to refill the battery relatively quickly. On the software side, the phone runs Android 16 with Tecno's HiOS 16 interface on top. Tecno is promising up to 3 major Android updates, which is a nice improvement compared to what the brand used to offer in the past. The interface includes a lot of customization options, smart features, and various AI tools that are becoming common on modern smartphones. And overall, the system feels smooth thanks to the combination of the processor and the high refresh rate display. Other small but useful features include stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos support, high-resolution audio playback, NFC for contactless payments, Wi-Fi 6 connectivity, and even an infrared blaster, which lets you control appliances like TVs or air conditioners directly from your phone. There's also an in-display fingerprint scanner that unlocks the phone quickly and reliably. So stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, the Tecno Camon 50 Ultra is actually a very interesting device. It combines a premium style design, a beautiful 144Hz AMOLED display, a large battery, strong camera hardware, and solid performance all in one package. For a brand that used to focus mostly on budget phones, this feels like a serious step toward competing with much bigger smartphone manufacturers. Of course, the real question will come down to pricing and long-term software optimization, because those are the things that often decide whether a phone becomes a hit or just another option in the crowded smartphone market. But purely based on the hardware and features, the Camon 50 Ultra definitely looks like one of the most ambitious phones Tecno has ever made. And that brings us to the big question. Could this actually be one of the best value smartphones of 2026? Or is it just another spec-heavy device that looks better on paper than in real life? Let me know what you think in the comments, because I would genuinely love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Tecno Camon 50 Ultra, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video for more smartphone reviews, comparisons, and tech content just like this.